So I'm going to talk about what you first do when you sit down at this. Here's an A100 organ. You may have heard of a Hammond B3 organ. That's the legendary model. But the Hammond A100 is the same as a Hammond B3, it's the same as a Hammond C3. And the only designation in those titles was the furniture style and the cabinet style of these organs. An A100 was a B3 that had a different style case, but also had built-in speakers. So it was a self-contained organ. You didn't need to have a separate amplifier or a Leslie speaker. You could just sit down and play the thing, and it was all contained. So when you first sit down at the organ, you'll notice there's a couple things beyond just a keyboard to take notice. And you have all these different controls. And you might notice that an organ has to be started. You can't just turn it on. What you can't see is down here on my organ, our start and run switches, a little box under here on the right side. Normally that would be up here on an organ, but my case is custom, so it's been moved around. But basically you have a start and run switch. When you're starting an organ, you have to get the tone wheels spinning. And the tone wheels are what's responsible for the actual tone, the sound that's produced. And they are controlled by two motors. There's a starter motor and a running motor, and it's kind of like a car. But the first thing you do is you have to flip up the start switch, and that's a little switch, little toggle switch on a spring. You have to hold that up and maybe run for about anywhere from, depending on the organ, maybe 5 to 20 seconds. And my organ, it's usually maybe 5 to 10 seconds. And when you hold that switch up, you'll hear the run motor start to speed up. And once it gets to a consistent speed, which is maybe 10 seconds in, you then have to flip the other switch, which is the run switch. And that's going to engage the motor to just keep going. And then when you do that, you let go of the start switch. And that's on a spring, so you don't have to turn it off. You can just let go, and it'll just flip down. And usually within about 30 seconds, the organ, you'll start to hear it. It'll fade in, the tubes warm up, and you're ready to play your organ. So that's the first thing to get going. Now we're looking at all this stuff in front of us, and one thing that you can't see is the expression pedal, which I have on my right foot down here. And that's just kind of a regular rocker pedal you might see. I'm sure no matter what you're playing, if you're playing a Hammond organ or if you're playing a keyboard, a lot of people are still going to use some sort of an expression pedal or a volume pedal, mainly because on an organ, unlike a piano, which is an instrument that as you play it, there's decay to the sound, organ will just keep ringing and ringing, and it'll just keep going. So you have this expression pedal to change, one, your volume and also your tone. So if I had no expression pedal, you can just see the organ is just going to keep going as long as I hold that. I heard a quote one time that you hold the note on the organ as long as you want, and it's the power company that will tell you to stop playing, because it will never stop sustaining. So you need to use the expression pedal to control that. And so, for instance, here's my expression pedal as quiet as it gets with my heel all the way down. And you can hear I'll start to put my toe down, basically, just kind of like, almost like it's an accelerator pedal on a car. That's toe all the way down. And you really need to use that just to control the dynamics of the organ, because you don't have notes that'll just fade away, blend one into the next. You have to really find ways to control the organ, because it can be intimidating with just such a loud, constant sound. The other thing about an expression pedal, and the reason I call it an expression pedal and not a volume pedal, if you're using a keyboard, you may be using a volume pedal. I've used different pedals for keyboards to emulate what I'm doing here. But on a real Hammond organ, the pedal is actually a mechanical pedal, and it's not just affecting volume. It's actually turning a potentiometer inside the preamp in the organ, and it really changes your tone as well as volume. So as you can kind of hear, as I turn it up, you might hear a little bit of overdrive come in and a little bit of distortion, and that really changes the color of the sound altogether. So you might hear as I just start to turn up a little bit, you hear it start to kind of growl a little bit. better, but it's also a less distorted sound. It's cleaner. So the pedal is really an integral part of how you play the Hammond organ, and you have to definitely get used to having your right foot just always sitting on it, or not far from it. You have to be ready to kind of use it at all times, and generally when I play, my foot never leaves it. Whether I'm standing or sitting, my right foot is just always there. Some people may use their left foot, but I stick with basically just my right foot there. That's what I've always done, and it's comfortable. All right.
Thanks for taking a look at this video. If you'd like to be notified the next time I release free content on YouTube, you can click on the subscribe button on this page. It's absolutely free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, if you'd like to study with me for free for 30 days, click on the Piano Success Playbook in the bottom left-hand side, and you'll get 30 days of lessons absolutely free of charge. I look forward to working with you in the next lesson.